And so tonight, we're going to be looking into the state of states. As a report that is published by a civil society organization, BudgiT, that focuses its attention on the fiscal spending and the situation of government in Nigeria, focusing also on analyzing governance state in the country. It released what it termed the State of States report, which breaks down how each state of the Federation has performed over the last few months, the revenue they've generated, how they've been spent, and how they focus on governance-related policies. Tonight, I'm being joined by one of the top executives of BudgiT, who is going to be breaking it down for us tonight. Please come forward and let's get to. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I
Delighted to be here.
Thank you so much indeed. Now, if you may come step, absolutely. Now, you look at what is going on. If you can summarize what the State of the States report means, not only for the government or the federative units, but Nigerians at large.
I think the State of States is a clear description of what Nigerians complain about all the time. You know, they say we focus too much on the federal government, we talk too much about Tinubu. The State of States provides insight, it provides analysis into what you could call the fiscal health of the 36 states of the Federation.
But, I mean, this is not the first time BudgiT is doing this. You've done it quite a few times.
It's our 10th year, actually.
Absolutely. Now, this year, because this report is significant. Now, this is the first time the state are getting much more in terms of percentage of what they've ever gotten after the removal of subsidy. Now, we've seen a lot of inflows into the pockets and into the coffers of the state. What would you say, summarily, before we go into the details, what has BudgiT discovered?
So BudgiT has discovered what, is really there for all to see. The cumulative revenue of the total revenue of all the states almost doubled, or slightly doubled, compared to 2023 fiscal year. And it's clear that a lot of this had to do with revenue and transfers from the Federation Account Allocation Committee, or, that had to do with the removal of subsidy. So states are earning far more, but IGR has also improved in no small way across board. Our report this year is significant in the sense that we're looking at the 10-year performance. So we are comparing year-on-year IGR growth, and we are also comparing, 2023 fiscal year to the 2024 fiscal year. And we have seen some, significant improvements. Some states have improved their IGR, quite significantly. And I would implore Nigerians to take a look at the reports themselves.
Now, part of what we're going to be looking at now is we're looking at the federating units.
Yes. In
terms of money that have come into their coffers, the 36 state plus the FCT, we're looking at what has gone into their hand and whether or not they are self-dependent or self-sufficiently able to stand alone without federal allocation, and you are able to look at them in terms of the monies available to them, how they spent it, and above all, whether or not they can survive without the center. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's get into it. A quick dive gives us an understanding. This is the overall fiscal performance ranking. And in this one, you said you have excluded Rivers State because of that 6-month military line.
You put it better than me.
In the interregnum, in the governance structure, because it went on 6 months of state of emergency. That can be excused. That's the reason, isn't it? But look, the usual, the likely suspect, Lagos top in the ranking. But unfortunately, Rivers is usually finding itself.
Yes.
Some of the South states will find themselves here.
Yes.
But interestingly, it's only Edo that appears here. The most very surprising one is Kwara. Kwara has always ranked at the bottom. But now, look at what it is.
So Kwara, funny enough, has been doing relatively well in the 2023 and I think 2022 editions of our report. If I'm not mistaken, Kwara was still within the top 10 in 2023. Again, like you rightly pointed out, with the absence of Rivers, and by the way, we unfortunately do not look at FCT, but we're thinking of doing that in subsequent editions. This has created like a vacuum for other states to fill in. So you have the Edos, you have Kwara being able to jump up, and Abia as well. But I would also implore Nigerians to take a look at the 6th to 10th. You see Kano there, you see Nasarawa. We have states from North Central and Northwest that are doing relatively well. But when we look at the disaggregated, the indexes, I'm sure, the picture will get more clear.
Break it down, because I don't want to encumber my viewers and the lovers of this program with the economy shenanigans and those jargons. I would like always to break it down for an average person to understand. What do we mean by fiscal performance?
So by fiscal performance, we need to realize that states are corporate entities. States are like businesses. States can have a balance sheet, they can declare profits or losses, and they can utilize their revenues efficiently. They can also spend efficiently or not efficiently. So the state of states looks at the states as if they were corporate organizations. How well is their balance sheet, for example?
So in other sense, so let's imagine that these states are 36 36 private organizations like Dangote, Unilever, Globalcom, and the rest of those big companies. Let's assume these are private entities. You are saying that what you have discovered in their overall performance, these 5 states are doing very well. If they were on the stock market, this is the kind of stock
you would want to buy
wants to
shares from these guys.
And these are the poor performing ones. These are the stock that nobody wants to buy. These guys are not running it well.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just breaking it down for people to understand. This is what the figures are telling us, that these states in the lower ranking have not done very well. Their books are not reading very well. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, unfortunately, there's red there. I'm not saying their books are in the red, but they are not performing as well as they could. As
in
well
comparative
as
analysis.
Yes, allows
to other states.
To other states, precisely.
Yeah. Now, but do we have states that are really, because Sheung Onigbinde and I had analysis where states were insolvent, where we analyzed and we saw that there are some states that will die financially. But are there situations like that this year or last year?
Yes, in fact, interestingly, this year you can see the states in pink. So the numbers, the larger the number is, the more the more they are relying on federal transfers or federation transfers than IGR. So this table or this index looks at how well states can do if they did not have federal or federation transfers and they only had IGR. So Enugu, Lagos, Abia, Anambra, Kwara are doing relatively well. In fact, the best out of the 35, and they have enough IGR that could theoretically cover, their recurrent expenditure, personnel, and overhead. In contrast, these states do not have enough to cater for their overheads and their personnel. It might be because they have very high wage bills, but the devil is always in the details.
So it then means, I go back to my breaking it down, that these states, for example, without federal allocation, if there is some kind of hiatus or there is a break in transmission in the inflow that comes
in the monthly inflow,
in the monthly federal allocation that goes to the state every month. Despite the fact that Imo State, for example, is part of the oil producing state. Without federal allocation, these states are in trouble.
These states are, I'm afraid, in trouble, yes.
But these ones, they've done well in the IGR. But the advice is that they need to do well as far as IGR is concerned, which is a main revenue source.
Be their primary revenue source, yes.
But they're not doing very well.
Not as well as they should.
They're in the red.
They're
this
in the
bottom
red.
5.
They're in the pink.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, you look at, okay, so this is what, in terms of performance,
this is IGR growth.
Okay.
Year-on-year IGR growth.
All right. So we look at the performance by, so this is year-on-year, isn't it?
Yes.
IGR growth. But what does this tell us?
So this tells us the difference between their previous year's IGR growth, their previous fiscal year, which is 2023, and the 2024 fiscal year. So where you have higher numbers, they've been able to significantly, there's a huge difference between what they earned in the 2023 fiscal year compared to 2024. They are doing better in terms of absolute volume of IGR. The lower it is, in fact, where you see negative numbers, it means that they made less in the 2024 fiscal year than the 2023 fiscal year.
So it then means that when President Bola Tinubu says subsidy is gone, the weight of that statement is what we are seeing now.
It's heavy.
Because now they're saying that look into the state. What gets into their hands? How are they spending it? How are they performing? Are they just sitting on their hands and doing nothing?
Yes.
And that's why a lot of Nigerians, I mean, those of us who will say, look, we do not have only one government in this country.
Precisely.
We have governments in this country.
Precisely.
Unfortunately, we focus the attention on the central government. But this is what we should be doing.
Absolutely.
If every state is up and running and up and doing, we might have it better. So in terms of year-on-year performance, Enugu is still top.
Phenomenal. It did the best. In fact, it exceeded Bayelsa by almost 2 percentage points.
And Abia too.
And Abia as well, yes.
And we could rely on the analysis of this performance for what we've seen from 2023, isn't it?
Yes.
In terms of the growth,
yes,
isn't it? So
yes.
That means that governments that just got a new governor in the last 2 years, we can see the reflection of their performance, isn't it?
Exactly.
So in Kano, in Osun, in Abia, in Bayelsa is not a new governor, Enugu is a new governor. So we could say kudos to the government of these who are relatively new. But if you are relatively new here and you are not doing well, it means that you need to go back to the classroom to learn more economics and get things done, isn't it?
Yes.
So let's move forward. So this is the other one. So comparatively, more public revenue left to implement the capital expenditure components of their budget. It means that whatever they have, we are not seeing it in capital expenditure. Is that what it means?
Yes. So this looks at the total revenue, which includes aids and grants that can cover their total expenditure. So these states plus FAAC plus IGR plus what they can get in terms of aids and grants are doing very, very well and are having minimal, very, very minimal waste in terms of excesses. While the ones in pink, despite the huge amounts of FAAC, are still finding it very difficult, to provide for their operating expenses. So this
there is
this is like a shift in a shift in the conversation. This sort of estimates the fiscal space the states have to borrow, and we look at debt as a percentage of revenue, debt as a percentage of debt servicing. Debt as a percentage of debt servicing. We look at the personnel costs to total revenue, among other things. So if your state was a true corporate entity, what's the fiscal space your state would have, to borrow? And I think this is also critical for ratings agencies. This is critical for states that want to collect debt or want to get into debt or collect loans. How well or how healthy are they in that regard? Lagos
is probably the most indebted state in the country.
It's overextended,
either by local or foreign debts. But it's not looking very good in terms of its performance in servicing those facilities. Is that what this report is saying?
I mean, the interesting thing is, one insight is debt growth is actually slowing down. If you compare the 2022 to 23 fiscal year to the 2023 to 2024 fiscal year, the increase in debt is slower than it was in that previous fiscal year. And we've actually seen a significant reduction in total debt size, not just foreign, but even domestic. So I think by and large, states are doing relatively better 2024 fiscal year than they did in the previous year.
Do they see any state run outside of the country for any debt in the last year?
So we would have to look at the DMO numbers. Yes, we'd have to look at the DMO numbers. But I know that there are quite a few states that did try to get into debt. I was looking at the data earlier today, but I can't seem to recall it at the moment. But, there is still a significant portion of debt in aggregate that is foreign denominated. And, a lot of pain came from the exchange rate controls that brought about the shift from 800 to 1,005. But we're seeing that easing off a bit.
The culture of loan request and the appetite for debt looks like it reduced drastically in the last year and a half. Is that the situation that you found out?
I mean, I suppose if you remove the repeat offenders, I don't want to call the names of those states, but it looks like, states are getting more naira. So they may not necessarily need to overextend themselves for massive capital infrastructure projects like they would before, where they had much less naira.
And everyone needs to be careful now, especially because the naira to dollar exchange rate is high, and a lot of people now who took the loans now some 3-4 years ago, especially the old governors, will now have to spend more naira to service the external debt sent with the central government. So I think a lot of people need to be cautious. The dollar to the naira has stabilized for a bit for the last few months. So it gives you, it allows you to be able to plan. That's one thing that stability has given us. But let's go quickly and see the rest of what does this mean. Abia jumped to the top here, and we found Ogun, Kogi, Cross River, Plateau, Ondo in the bottom part of the ladder.
So this essentially just looks at how well states are prioritizing capital expenditure. Are they spending more of it than in recurrent, personnel and overheads? And this gives insight into just where the money is going and by what percentage. So you have states that intend to, I suppose, work on ease of doing business, or translate infrastructure into improving livelihoods, being in the top 5 of the ranking. And of course, states that are in pink are not allocating as much as they should, or they're allocating far less than their operating expenses to capital expenditure.
All right, so let's look at it. So these are key insights into the summary of what exactly we are looking at. Can you break this down for us quickly?
Yes, so the combined revenue of all the 35 states increased from 8.6 trillion to 17.7. That is massive. And that had a lot of that had to do with FAAC. 29 states relied on FAAC receipts for at least half of their total revenue. So this is sort of bringing into light a lot of the...
and I'm worried, you know why? Because the more FAAC you get, the lazier some states have become. They're getting more money, the appetite to run after revenue and generate local... Sort of dwindle. And that is a problem. We cannot find ourselves in what Nigeria found itself after the oil boom. We became lazier, we become so distracted because more monies are coming. And this is what we're seeing now. They're more reliant on, when a lot of states were insolvent, they were looking at alternative measures. A lot of them went to borrow though.
Some had bailouts from the federal government?
2-3 times.
So, finally in the corner there, FAAC comprised at least 60% of the recurrent revenue of 30 states, except Lagos, Ogun, and Enugu. So you can see that these 3 states, Lagos is the outlier, but Ogun and Enugu seem to be doing pretty well. 31 states relied on FAAC for at least 80% of their recurrent revenue. So the story is actually getting quite challenging for a lot of states.
Lagos State earned 2.24 trillion, massive. This is, if in dollar time, Lagos State is, in terms of earnings, is like the size of 3 states in the West Africa.
It's a special economic zone.
3 countries in West Africa.
It's a special economic zone. Yes.
And so there's some things that BudgiT Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos State, things that I've seen. That water sports. And I saw something else about water transportation, and I've seen a lot of things that will attract a lot of people in this December, the Dirty December. I'm looking forward to what the figures will be when Dirty December, because hearing a lot of people, when I hear about Dirty December, Lagos will get a lot of attention. And I think that a lot of states also need to learn from that. There is a new airport in Ogun State, which a lot of people, tourists, should also look at in coming. Oyo is also a border state. What Makine is doing in Oyo State, you can take the train to Lagos, and these are opportunity within that zone, isn't it?
Precisely. So gross FAAC grew, considerably from 5.4 trillion to 11.38. So this is just to give a sense of how wide or how massive federation account transfers have been in one fiscal year. So the aggregate IGR of 35 states grew by over 50%. And, we do have to give the states a bit of kudos for that, especially the ones that grew considerably year on year, and those that also grew considerably in the 10-year period that we looked at. 15 states grew their IGR by more than 50%, Enugu having the highest, like I said, while only 2 states recorded negative IGR growth. If you recall the Index A1 chart, two states on the bottom had negative growth, which means that their 2024 fiscal year IGR was less than 2023 fiscal year.
Kebbi is the kind of example no one wants to have.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, the government and the people of that place need to really wake up.
Yes.
Right.
So some rather disappointing numbers. The cumulative spending of the states, about 2.11 trillion, was used to service debt. That's about a quarter of their cumulative spending. So you could say that out of every 1 naira, about 25 kobo is being used to service debt. Yeah.
All right. These are the recommendations that are
A wall of recommendations. Yeah,
it's a lot. But what stands out here? What should we be looking out for? I'm personally taking a lot of lessons from here. States are becoming rather lazier than we used to find. They cannot be like Dasika and the lethargic. They need to wake up economically and think wider to be able to earn more, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I think my top 3 takeaways from the recommendations would be to digitize revenue collection. The chairpersons of the various state boards of internal revenue do need to work better on not just harmonizing their tax regimes, but digitizing them. Make it easy for people to pay taxes, and you'd see a difference in that. Of course, deploying tax intelligence, that would work pretty well. One more is to harmonize the taxes, levies, and fees. So what the federal government is doing with the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Reforms is the same thing that states should be doing. They should be harmonizing their taxes with the local governments. Make it easy, make it transparent, make it simple, drill down the number of taxes to very few, and you'd see an increase in tax payments.
Well, that's about it. Thank you so much. Kudos to you and your team at BudgiT for the work you're doing. There's a big lesson that in a nation of a federal state, federating units composing of the central, the state, and the local government need to work in unison. More money is flowing down, but at the bottom level, how are they looking at it? The governance structure and the governance at the grassroots, we need to put our attention. But thanks so much indeed
for having
your time.
Me.